Dribble, Pinterest, Behance, and so on. As designers, we all agree interaction design plays an important role to deliver great user experience. Meanwhile, I'm always curious about how designers come up with those fabulous ideas. What kind of problems will be solved behind this design? And what is great interaction design from their perspectives? Luckily, my questions might be as same as yours are going to be answered today. Now, let me introduce you our next speaker, Johny Vino, an award-winning designer on Dribble and Behance, specialized in interaction design and animation techniques. He will share his perspectives of interaction design. So now, let me please welcome Johny Vino.
Hey everyone. Uh, so I'm really happy to be here. So I really appreciate Shelly, who organized this event, and I'm really happy to see this many people are attending this event. And I really appreciate a lot of good speakers came to this event. Uh, so my name is. So I start with my background. So my name is Johny Vino. So currently, I'm doing a lot of like interaction design for mostly digital platforms like mobile app, web apps. Uh, so this topic I'm going to cover only micro interaction, like focused on how to do a micro interactions in your mobile or in a web app. So we are going to focus on like 6 main points. So first thing is like I'm going to give you a little background about me, how I come to interaction design. And second thing is what is the basics of interaction, and that how to do interactions, specifically how to do micro interaction and when to do micro interactions. And finally, I'm going to give you which tools you can use to make those animation in your company or in your school or in your projects. So the background, I born on India. So I grew up in India. It's a small village called Agapikulam. So it's the south side of India. So I studied electronics engineering. So it's kind of weird. Like I studied engineering, then I changed my career into like design because I really love design than doing like electronics or doing like engineering. Uh, so when I started like doing design, so the main challenge for me is like how you're going to start designing, because I don't have any design background. So I started with the principle of creating one design a day. So I'm doing this for like 2 years. So every day I post one design. For now I created like 500 interactions, and I usually post in a lot of like social platforms like Dribble, Behance, and I usually write out my process, how I do design. And yeah, this is my portfolio. You can go through the link in the left-hand side. So I created a lot of interactions, which are more, something is more experience and something is more like experimental. So I tried a lot of like different patterns you can do in a mobile app. It's not just a single interaction. So I tried a variety of interactions in mobile apps. So currently I'm in New York City. I'm coming from there to talk here. So this is the background I have. So now I jump to like a lesson. Okay, what is interaction design? How many people know what is interaction design here? Could you raise your hand? How many people just hear the word interaction? Okay, so I will give a basic of interaction because interaction means a lot. It has a lot of meanings. So when I started, I am really confused that, okay, what is the meaning of interaction? Like, so the first thing we have to make sure that we don't misconception of any interaction design. So the first thing is interaction is not animation. So most of the people think like, okay, interaction means something moves from there, something flies. And the second point is interaction is not meaningless. It's not like some transition coming from a top, some balloon will flower. So interaction have some meaning behind it. So interaction is mainly to solve the problem. So in a day-to-day life, you may have some problems in like, if you're walking to some place or if you're sitting in a chair. So if you're sitting in a chair, that's one type of interaction. They have the handle. So they made that handle in a way that it clearly interact with you. The second point is like interaction usually help the users. And third point is interaction is give feedbacks to the user. If you're touching something, it will give a feedback again to the user. So you may confuse now, okay, what are these words? I'll show some like real world example what I'm talking about. So I will give like a basic definition. Interaction is basically how machine talks with human or how we talk to machine. So that's simply interaction. So I'll give a real world example. So every day you may came across this like so every day we cross the subway or we go to train. So if you see this interaction, like we'll show a code to that machine, the door will open automatically. So this is the kind of interaction, like we are touching a machine, the machine give a feedback of opening a door. So if you involve that principle into the digital world, so if you're swiping a card for payment, so based on your swipe, the screen will get changed. So if you swipe for a card of $26, so it shows some interaction, okay, it's processing, the payment is going on. So it's give a feedback to the user to that what's going on in a machine. So this is some Uber, so everyone may use Uber, I think. So Uber is you primarily use interaction to show, like if you're booking a car, it will show a clear interaction that, okay, in a map there are 3 cars are there. You can book one car, that car will come in 4 minutes. So they show this small micro interaction to give you a feedback so that you can understand, okay, my car is coming in 4 minutes. So it's simple to understand interaction. So the third point is like, okay, interaction is fine. I'm interacting with machines or I'm interacting with computer, whatever. So what do you mean by micro interaction? It means like a small interaction. So it exactly means like a small interaction happening in your life. So I will give another like real world example, like everyone go to the hotel and opening a door. So if you see this example, the lady is coming and touching with the cord. The blink is coming from the door. So it's primarily a micro interaction, like it gives you some feedback. Okay, I touched the cord, the door opened because she have a right cord. So if we decrypt in a theoretical way how the micro interaction works is, so in a normal state, the door will be closed. So if someone touched the door, it will give a micro feedback to the user that, okay, something is happening, the code is accepted. It gives like a small interaction, like a small light to confirm that something is happening in a machine. So I will give like so I told a lot of like a physical example to understand to everyone that, okay, what is interaction? I will give some digital example how companies are doing interaction. Everyone see this, right? How many people see all this? Yeah. Awesome. So you now understand interaction, right? Yeah. So if someone asks you in a letter, like you can tell, okay, this is interaction. So I will take those physical concepts and apply those concepts into a digital world. That's the interaction. So it's that simple. You can easily understand. So the companies like Twitter. So if you see in a Twitter, like if you press the hot button, it will give like a small blink. In a medium, they will show like a small claps animation. So these are like a micro interaction feedbacks to you that, okay, something is happening in a software. Otherwise, people don't understand what's happening in a software if it's don't react anything. So I will walk through some of the scenarios we can use this micro interaction. So how many of here is from companies, working in a company? Okay, good amount of people. So how we can like use this micro interaction in our company? I made a lot of interactions. So I'm going to walk through some of the example I did personally in my projects or my client projects. So this is type of micro interaction I made to showcase like a progress of something is happening in an app. So for example, if you see that if I select the form, if I am filling the form, the bottom progress bar will fill automatically and it shows that the form is progressing, and also it's the progress bar transform into a button so that you can use that specific button. So we can use this way to show the micro interactions. So it's not like the screen, if you see a screen with a bunch of forms, or if it's a list of form you need to fill, so it will be quite boring, and people don't like those things. So we need to make the screens very dynamic and interactive, and the skin have to like speak with you. The second principle I have is like if you're filling a form or if you have a login, so you have to wait for some time to authorize it. So I showcase like a small breathing effect to show, okay, the system is loading or system is taking some time. So these are like a small micro interaction you can use in your projects. So this is like educating the users. Like, so if you give like a whole bunch of screen, people usually don't know where to click the button. So it shows like a small bounce action to showcase, okay, this is the place you need to click. So this type of micro interaction will play a very good role in your app. So if you are making an app for like a age of like old people, or if you're making for a very kid of studying in a school, he may not understand, okay, what needs to be done in an app. So you have to educate them properly. Okay, you have to click here, you have to click there. So sometimes I do like a real world example. In this animation, I showed like a weight calculator we use every day. So it's like a small boy coming. If you log in, you can like choose, okay, weight scale or height scale you can increase. So it's a kind of like a physical connection everyone can easily understand. You don't need to teach someone, okay, how to interact with those things. So sometimes you can make it cute, or like you can make some gamification in your interactions. So this is like somewhat I'm showing for a finance app. It's finance app mostly it's like quite strict. They don't have like a lot of visual element. So we can use like a small interaction to show them, okay, the finance also become fun and it's more engaging for young users. Yeah, this one is quite interesting. Like, so for example, if you're going to some event, or if you're going to meet someone, they will ask you, like if you're going to book some like a car or something, they will ask you a bunch of questions to you. Like, okay, which type of car you want, which time you want, which date you want. So this type of conversational UI we can show through interaction. So in this UI, you can clearly see it's asking a bunch of questions in a small micro interaction. So it's like the person is speaking to you. It's not like a static form. It's a dynamic action is happening in a screen. So we know where to click, which action we need to take. Yeah, sometimes this is a BMI calculator I made for a small app. So sometimes we make like a small, like a fun or humor you can involve in an app. Sometimes it makes the user to smile. Okay, something is happening in the screen. So you can smile at the screen. It's not like a boring app or something. We can make something very interesting or more humorous to the user. So all these are not just come from softwares. So I have a process I can share with you, like what are the behind scenes of making all these interactions. So if you see in this screen, so this is a food app. So you can do a lot of filtering in a food app. usually if you're ordering a food, people will be like, okay, I want a sandwich, I eat only non-veg. So this type of filtering actions, it's common in all the app. So how we can gamify this experience? So I took like in a board and wireframed all my screens, and I then thought about, okay, which part, I put a sticky notes in a specific place, which part we can add this type of interaction, the small micro interaction. So if you are working in a project, you have to do, like, you have to take all the screens you already have, then you have to pick some point, okay, this point we can add a small micro interaction that makes the app unique and different from all the apps in an app store. So I'll go through another app. So this is like a small ideas app I made. So this is like, instead of showing like a list of view, I made like a small chord circular selection. So all these are inspired from a real world. Like this type of interaction you can see in a real. So this one I inspired from a kindergarten school. Like people usually, like, there is a round, the kids will be sitting there, you can like spin and round. So mostly I inspire from a real world so that anyone can understand. It's not for like a tech people, or it's not for designers or engineers. We have our mom, like we have our grandparents in our home. They have to understand what we are making or what we are designing. Yeah, this one is this one is practically, you can see how I inspire from a real world swiping a card action, and how I showcase those physical action into a digital experience. So usually people go to shops, and after finishing the shop, they will swipe and the payment get charged. So I want to bring those experience and showcase in a screen, like, okay, card is swiping, your amount get transferred. Yeah, there are a lot of process in my portfolio. You can check my portfolio. So this is how I make all my design. Like initially I make like a small sketch in my board. Then I'll mark down the point, which are the points we can add specifically the interaction. Then I will make those interaction in a softwares. So as I said, this is the last heading I have. So the last heading is like, okay, what tool you are making this? Like everyone want to make this animation, right? Like it's cool. So the tools, there are thousands of tools there in like internet. In recent days, there are like so many design softwares are there. But I specifically use these 4 softwares. So for UI design, like if something looks good, I usually make in like a sketch. For Windows user, you can use like Adobe, it's super cool. For animation, I primarily use Principle because Principle is quite fast in making. And recently the tool called InVision Studio, it's quite nice. You can make your UI and your animation pretty quick in the InVision Studio. So these are the 4 primary softwares I use to make all these interactions. Yeah, you can reach out to me in a social media. Like if you search in Google Johny Vino, you can find in all the social media it's the same name. Yeah, if you have a question also, you can reach out to my email. Yeah, thanks.
因为我们距离那个还有点时间，所以我们现在先可以开放一些那个 Q&A， 然后如果有任何人想要问 Johny Vino 的话，可以现在举手询问。
Hello, I'm Andy.
Hi,
and
Andy.
I saw a lot of your demo are the control bar are in a round shape, a circle shape.
Yeah.
But in the real world, there are a lot of control bar. It's just like a nav bar or square.
Yeah.
what's the difference? Is there a real-world example that using the round-shaped control bar like your design, or what's the difference between what's the purpose of your design?
So that's a good question. So my purpose, like the lot of control bar you seen in apps are like mostly like a bottom bar. It's like a quite simple. So I usually do those like 50% I do those type of pattern. For it depends on the user, what user you are designing for. Like if you are designing for like a young generation, you can make something like experimental. Like you can try new patterns. But if you are designing for like a very old people, you can't like go like crazy level like interactions, or you can't do those type of circular for like a old people, or people don't like a techie. So it depends on the user, which user you are designing.
Hi, Johnny. Thank you for sharing those like super awesome works. And then I'm super curious about like how you, as you mentioned, like you create the everyday one design, right? So it's super hard for me since like I think most of the people here like me is that we have a daily work. So how would you suggest those us like how can we keep our productivity and creativity every day? And how did you find any like inspirations? Like how could you like keep those motivations like every day? Yes.
Yeah, every day I have, I'm also going to work and I'm studying in school. So every day I fix the time for me, like every day 10 p.m. to 12 p.m. So I fix that specific time. In that specific time, I do only this UI. So if you want to be motivated, you have to fix your time. Like, okay, this is the time I'm going to spend for me to improve myself. So you have to fix that time specifically. And for inspiration, so I usually, if you honestly ask me, I don't took inspiration from internet. So I want to experiment a lot of things. Whatever I am thinking in my mind, it may be wrong sometimes, it may be correct sometimes, but I will just do it. So you have to just make it whatever. Some people say, okay, your designs are bad. It's fine. You have to like improve by doing a bad design. So I made a lot of bad design. Like if you see a 500 interaction, I made like around 200 bad design. So this all depends. You have to make your heart that okay, I can able to make a bad design. One day I will make a good design.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for your sharing, and it's really great. But I'm wondering how about micro-integration in web applications? Because your portfolio and the samples you showed are all about mobile apps. But actually, our work also includes web applications. So do you think it's same as it's in mobile apps, or they are different, or are they different?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel it's in like 2018, like mobile and web, like both are same. Like it's a responsive. If you've seen the example I shown, like a Facebook, so they have a same interaction in like a mobile and a web. So you feel the same. So I mostly do mobile app because I feel I'm good at that. So I focus only on mobile app, but you can replicate the same principle to the web app. So the principle never changes. Like, okay, so if you're clicking something, so if you get some feedback, so that's a main principle. So you have to apply the same principle to mobile, or if you're designing for a watch, if you're designing for a whole interaction wall, so it's, all the principles are same.
Thank you.
Hello, Johnny. Yeah.
Hey.
Hey. Hello. My name is Scarlett, and thank you for your presentation. It was impressive. So I have one question because I go through your portfolio, and it was impressive. However, if we really show this fancy animation to our developer, maybe they will challenge us, say, why you able to prove it really help people, or it really bring any benefit to the user. So my question is like, if you have this situation, how you able to convince them or influence them, or you just drop out, give up? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel it's happened a lot in companies. So it's very convinced to like do developers. Okay, this is the animation I made. Could you code it? So they'll take like 1 year to code those animation, right? But I feel like in my companies, most of my developers are really like curious and they're really wild, like me. Like they also want to make the interaction, like the app is more animation. So it's depend on a team you're working on. So you have to choose the team which can develop your like an animation. And if you can't choose a team, you have to show the business that, okay, this is the main unique point we are selling. Like our app have this unique feature. So you have to show the impact to the business, because business people don't care about like you are making animation or if you're making awesome thing. They don't care. They care about money, what money I'm getting from your design. So you have to show them, okay, this is how I'm making animation. This will give an impact back to the company. So this is how you have to convince everyone.
I want to ask the following question. Because the interaction is highly relative to your user.
Yeah.
So do you do survey before you do the design?
Could you repeat me? What is
Do you do survey?
survey?
Yeah, before you do the design.
Yeah, I do survey. If you give me like 6 months, I will do survey, research, like. So it depends on the time, like what time you are giving me. Sometimes people don't give me time. They want to make me in like a 1 week. You can't like spend time in like surveying. On that time, you have to depend on your intuition. You know something because you have some experience for like 10 years or like a 5 years. You know, okay, this will work or this will not work. If you give me so currently I'm working on a project. They give me like 3 months to do a small work. So I spend most of the time doing survey, talking to people, doing user testing with my prototype. So it depends on the timeline.
Hello, I'm Samuel. The previous question is awesome because I'm just an iOS developer and the front-end engineer. Yep. But I'm just curious about there are lots of the micro-interaction and some kinds of the motion graphics in your works. Some of the animation, it would take a lot of time for the development, and I'm just curious about how do you make some communication with the engineer about how about the animation, the delay, or the timing function? Also, you always make the prototyping for the developer to know your animation, or use some kinds of After Effect with the third party, like Airbnb's Lottie or some kinds, yeah.
So that's a good question. So yeah, I used After Effects and Lottie for like making animations, like a small animation. But if I'm making a small interaction, like okay, if I click the screen, what will happen? So the first question you asked, like how you communicate with the developer, like it's really tough, right, to make the code. So usually if I'm making a big interaction, so I will go by version. Okay, in version 1, make only this. So in version 1, make only this type of like motion level. So if that level is going well, like people are really liking those animation, we can spend like 6 months in creating the high level like project. But usually for first version, we have to be very functional. Okay, how your app works. Then you have to make all those interactions.
Hello, Johnny, and I want to ask about most companies use design guidelines like UI kit or something. And have you ever collaborate with some company and make animation or some interactions into their design guideline?
Yeah, that's a really practical question. Like if you're working for a company from a starting, like it's a startup, So in a startup, we fix like a small guidelines. So if you're working for a big company, changing a guideline is really difficult. But the past company, I work for a startup. So in that time, so they are like a web app. So they have a web app. So I designed them like what are the interaction can be possible in a web app. So I made like a small table, like everyone knows, like in a web app, there will be a table, right? So in table, so what are the interaction we can do in a table? Like we can short the table, we can reframe the table size, we can reduce the number of field in the table. So I defined all those like 16 interaction pattern for that specific company. So it's not just a UI, it's a design pattern you have to make if you're working for a startup or if you're starting an app from scratch.
And hello.
And the developer question.
Hello, Johnny.
Hi.
My name is Musa. So my question to you is, recently there are a lot of tools like Framer.js and Facebook's.
Origami, yeah.
Yes, Origami Studios. So my question is, the line between prototyping and micro-interaction and static design is blurring. They're all coming together.
Yeah.
My question to you is, do you use those, or how important is it for designers to know how to code JavaScript and do interactive prototyping, animation and interaction?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like a lot of people ask that, okay, do you even code? Like, do you even code in a JavaScript? So I used like, I test all the softwares like Origami, Framer, like I used all the softwares, but I feel like the Framer, Origami, it's awesome for working with the developers. You can give all the numbers, but it's actually restricting my creativity level because you can't go beyond one level in those softwares. So it depends on the company you are working or the stage of the company. If the company can take risk of doing interaction, if the company have a lot of time, we can like do in principle. But if the company don't have time, they can't take risk, you have to make it in Framer. But I personally don't make anything in Framers because I usually make like experimental stuff, like a lot of creative work. Yeah, but I feel like companies using that Framer and Origami.
Hello, I'm Samuel. I have a question about the style guidelines. So is there any, have you ever made some kinds of the guideline for your micro-interaction for the app, or like the button effect or some pop-up view, that kinds?
Yeah, I made interactions for like filling a form. Like if I'm taking some project, I made like a small interaction, like if I click on the form, what type of interaction will happen? So if I click on the button, what type of interaction happens? So my job is to make the app more interactive. So I usually make the pattern for them. So it's like a UI style guide, like a color of the button, size of the button. So I make those type of pattern animation for the companies. So it's kind of like a small video.
因为时间的关系，我们现在就开放最后一个提问。还有任何听众想要问吗？有吗？最后一个。好。
Hi, I have a question for you. So I'm just wondering, you work on different projects and you build up lots of like app for them. So when you work on so you have to face on different customer and make for the customer for the best solution for them. So how do you find out like what is the best? Like how do you design? You have to understand what they want and how they interact with the technique and how they're thinking. So how do you find out those things and make that to your design?
Yeah. So that's a question correlate with what I'm doing now. How you are like get feedback from like a customers, because we are doing everything for a users or like a customers. We are not doing for ourselves, showing off like I am a great designer. We are showing like, okay, I can make a good design for my user, right? So for that you have like people have different strategies. Like one is like design thinking. Like they think a lot, they spend a lot of time in doing research, survey, so a lot of like writing stuff. But my style is like quite simple. I make like a quick prototype and give to my user in a mobile. So I have all my prototype in my mobile. So I just give them, I walk to Starbucks and give them, okay, this is some testing I'm making. Could you do this job? Could you book a flight ticket in this app? So they will like click on the spot. We can understand, okay, we don't need to ask any questions to them. We don't need to spend like finding all the surveys. We can just see them, okay, how they are behaving to the prototype. That's why these prototypes are really important in your design process.
So thank you, Johny, for sharing this wonderful speech with us. And if you want to learn more from him, I can recommend you can follow his Medium. He has written numerous inspiring articles about his perspectives of interaction design. And the morning session has ended here, and please enjoy your lunchtime, and see you back in an hour. Thank you.